guys, so it's now time. I'm pretty excited about this mod, to be honest with you. I found this GTR wheel for $200 on a Facebook marketplace post. Some guy in South Australia was selling it. The outside of it was pretty shitty, if I'm honest, but I managed to get a hold of one of these stitch-on covers from eBay for about $34, which I'll link down in the description. And you just sew it on there, basically. You just go through the threads, and it gives you a video on YouTube how to watch it, how to sew it, sorry. And basically, you just follow the instructions. I didn't actually sew it myself because after I got obviously diagnosed with MS, my hands don't work the way they used to, so real fiddly things I'm not that great at, if I'm honest. So, yeah, pretty much it's going to be a straight swap over. I'm not entirely sure if it's all going to be working 100% correctly, because I know that obviously with the 34 automatics, they've got the buttons to shift gears up here, which if it does work, it probably will be rendered useless. I mean, the shift will be rendered useless, and it'll just be through the gear stick, which is better anyway, in my opinion. So we're going to get cracking on that today, and I'm hopefully going to have it finished sooner rather than later. Just a few tips and tricks to make sure we bolt it on straight and don't get in any trouble in that way, because to be honest with you, I've done it before with one of my old cars. If you put the steering wheel on incorrectly, you end up driving straight, but the steering wheel's pointing that way. It's one of the most annoying things in the world, and I can't stand it. So we're going to try everything we can to avoid that. But I'm super excited. I think it's going to really make the interior special. And the fact that we managed to get a GTR steering wheel for $250 plus, I guess, $34 for the cover, so less than $300, is pretty amazing, if I'm honest, considering I was looking on eBay and they're going for around about $1,200, $1,800 US. So super pumped about this, so stay tuned and we'll start taking apart the steering wheel now, and yeah, we'll get cracking. Alright guys, we're about to change the steering wheel now. First thing you have to do is disconnect the battery, obviously working on anything electrical in the car. But there's two little tabs there, I'm not sure how well you can see that right there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to grab a screwdriver and just put it in there like so. And that'll basically just pop off. Okay, now you've got your airbag. You got your airbag connector there, so we're just going to disconnect that, which comes out really easily. So another reason why I wasn't sure 100% whether this is going to work or not is because the horn module. I know the airbag modules will line up because all the airbags basically have the same control unit, but it's more the horn module. The plan is to obviously restore the steering wheel. Now, I don't know how well you can see, but it's in pretty poor condition, if I'm honest. Down the bottom there. And also, the spacing between each portion of the steering wheel is off. So, I don't know how well you guys can see, and sorry for the hand in the camera, but this side is normal, whereas this side over here, you can see it's pushed right up against it. So I'm not sure why that is. But look, the plan is to restore the steering wheel at a later date, but I need a steering wheel to drive around with at the moment, so we're going to chuck the GTR one on, and I figured it's a decent mod. You're going to need, I think, a Torx 20 for this one here, so we'll get that sorted and we'll come back to it. Guys, just a bit of an update for you. Taking off an R34 25 GT turbo steering wheel is actually one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. So the little screws I showed you previously, these ones here, they're actually tamper-proof screws, which means basically if you try and get them out, they will basically not come out, number one, and number two, you'll end up threading them. You'll end up threading the top, and because they're Torx screws, which require a special tool, which I did happen to have one, doesn't mean jack, you know what, you cannot get them out. So long story short, everything I showed you up to date was fine, okay? you take off the tabs, you unplug the airbag. Well, that's the horn module there, and you unplug the airbag module, and that's fine. You take out the bolts, and then everything comes off. But if you can't get the bolts out, what you're going to have to do is do what I did and have to drill them out. Now, thankfully, I didn't thread them. I didn't thread them when I drilled them out. Even though it may look like it there, it's because there's a bit of metal still left in there, but the threads work fine. I've checked them with some more screws. Thankfully, I had some spare screws to obviously put them in there, because otherwise, I don't know where we'd be right now. But just, yeah, very, very hectic to do. And look, if you are going to do this, I recommend obviously having a drill on standby just in case. Thankfully, I had some spare screws. Another thing I did is when I took off the bag, I made a little nick right there, which is pretty much the center of the wheel. So I know exactly when I put the GTR wheel on, where the center of the steering wheel is. You can also tell the center by obviously that part there, but then these two bolts here, they're a certain distance apart from this. So that's another way of telling. As I said, I think the horn button is different on the GTR wheel. Zoom, focus, sorry. So I'm not sure the horn's going to work, but I'll need to get that sorted at a later date. I know 100% the airbag one works, but just so you guys can see a bit more of obviously the condition of the wheel, yeah, it's seen better days for sure, which is obviously why I want to take it off and then get it restored into the Series 2, which is the silver and obviously black. But look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wheel off now, and I'll come back to you guys shortly. Again, I'm not a qualified anything, to be honest with you. So look, it's not one of these things where I know exactly 110% what I'm doing. If I'd done my research further, I would have assumed that these were done with the Loctite, or found out that they were done with Loctite, and I wouldn't have had that issue. But I didn't do that research. All the other tutorials I've watched, everyone just basically took them out like butter. Obviously, because my steering wheel's never been touched and it's still original from Japan and nothing's ever been changed on it, it was a massive headache. So stay tuned and we'll get the steering wheel changed over. Alright guys, I've loosened the bolt now, using a Tool Pro breaker bar, 19mm socket. Basically it's off now. You can see the wheels floating a little bit. Look, just something for you guys to be mindful of too. Don't ever remove the steering wheel completely, because what will end up happening is that you will basically, when you try and pull it off, I've seen people break their noses from obviously trying to do it, and it hurts, I've been told. So the next thing we're going to do is just basically loosen the steering wheel a bit more until we can get it off, and then pretty much I'm going to knock the steering wheel around from left to right before the bolt's fully off, and that's because I want to make sure it's going to come out completely. So once you see it start doing stuff like that, like jiggling from side to side, you know that she's good to go basically, and you should be able to get the rest of the bolt out with your hand, which will be fine. And once that comes out, we should be able to take the steering wheel out. Is there any connectors for the, that's a bolt there. Is there any connectors for the stuff here? I don't know, so we'll find out together. So give me 1 second guys and I'll come back. Alright, turns out there's no connectors for that. It must all go through the horn module, which makes sense also. But yeah, come to think of it, it's kind of got a pretty smart method here. I'm not sure if the GTR wheel has it too, but this part here lines up there with that little tab there to basically make it dead center, which is pretty smart. So look, let's get the GTR wheel on now and see what happens, and I'll come back to you once I've put it on and plugged everything in. Alright guys, we've got the GTR wheel on now. As I suspected, the horn module is completely different, unfortunately. So we are going to have to obviously organize that at a later date. But we're going to put this on now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plug everything in, put the wheel on, and then finish it up for you guys so you guys can see what it looks like on and all the rest of it. I'm not going to put this on too tight. I'm going to put it tight enough, but I don't want to over torque it. That's the reality of the situation. So also I found out it's pretty cool too, for the center of the wheel it's got the little tab as well, just there, which is pretty cool, but the GTR one must be a bit thicker. So yeah, look, I'm going to put everything together now and we'll come back to it once it's finished and we can decide if we like it or not. Bye. All right, people, it's done. I like it personally. Now, I know there's going to be a fair few people on here that are going to be like, well, it's not a GTR, so why do you have the wheel? There's no need for it. It's not a GTR. Look, guys, I'm a Skyline enthusiast. I know it's not a GTR. I can also tell you that a lot of S-Tune R34 GT 25 GT turbos came out with GTR option parts, including the seats, the wheels, things like that. So as I said, this is not going to stay on here forever. I want to get the other one restored, but for now I think it looks good. I think it looks really good actually. But look, as I said, the horn's not working at the moment, so that's a bit of a bummer. But honestly, how often do you use your horn? Well, now that I've said that, it'll probably be often. I think it suits the car, to be honest with you. But yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of hate out there going, oh, well, it's not a GTR. I know it's not a GTR. I'm not pretending it's a GTR. One of my personal pet hates is people that get the standard Skylines and put a GTR body kit on there to make it look like one. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sitting in my car. No one's really going to be seeing the steering wheel except for me and potentially anyone who walks past the car when I'm not in it. Apart from that, I'm not trying to imitate a GTR. So yeah, guys, look, leave me a comment as to what you thought about it. If you like it on there, let me know. If you don't, also let me know. Open to criticism, obviously. But I think it adds a little something special to the interior. Yeah, so look, that's it for today, guys. But I'll be back soon with some more stuff. Let me know what you all think and take care.